Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is that you inky savages are joining me for episode number 195 of the PenBoyRoy Entertainment Podcast. Thank you for joining me once again. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I did my last podcast, and I don't know if everybody knows this, but on June 24th, I lost a pet, my good cat, Stewie. Turns out he had undiagnosed heart failure and then undiagnosed heart disease. And then that turned into heart failure. So we noticed that he was breathing funny. So we took him in on a Monday and didn't expect that he wasn't coming home that night. So I've decided I wanted to do this episode. I wanted to dedicate this episode to my cute little baby Stewie cat, who we had to put down on the 24th. And that was the first time I ever had a pet that wasn't like a fish or something like that pass on me. It was something I wasn't really prepared for because, he seemed healthy. He seemed to be active. And then just very suddenly on a Monday afternoon, I took him to the animal hospital. We had to then take him to a specialist. And then they were telling us that his heart condition was so progressed that we had to go ahead and put him down, which is what prompted this episode. It's also the reason why I haven't done an episode in several weeks, because I did want to talk about it, but I wasn't able to talk about it without falling apart. I wasn't able to talk about it I wasn't able to talk about it for longer than 10 seconds without falling apart because I was very emotionally attached to Stewie. So the topic today is how I use journaling to cope with the loss of a pet. I think that the loss of a pet is different than loss anywhere else in people's lives because I feel like people don't relate to losses of pets the way they do with people and stuff like that. Like you lose a pet and people just assume that you should just move on real quick. Where it comes with people, everybody empathizes and sympathizes, and they understand that it takes a toll on you as a human being, and sometimes it takes 2-3 weeks. And I feel like the same goes for our furry fur babies. Sometimes it can be very difficult, and sometimes people don't know how to cope with it, like myself. Didn't really know how to cope with it. Didn't know or expect for it to be as impactful as it was. So in order to cope with it, I had to figure it out. And I used journaling. I used writing and I used journals to cope with it. I'm still coping with it. I'm not sure if I'm doing it the right way. I don't know if there's a way, but I'm giving it a shot. But anyway, before we get on with this week's episode, I want to talk about our sponsorships. So our sponsorships include, I'm going to talk about this pen here. This is the sleek, modern, and perfect blend of style and functionality. It is a limited edition Carbon F fountain pen from Waldman Pen Official. They are only 100 pieces worldwide and crafted with a stunning Swiss-made carbon fiber cap and a highly polished 92.5% sterling silver barrel. It's more than just a pen. It is a statement of awesomeness. Are you ready to elevate your writing experience? Are you? That's what it says here. But check out this pen. It's really beautiful. I also want to talk about the JurylogioMade.com website. It's live. Not only is the JurylogioMade.com website live, but if you use the affiliate link in the description below and use coupon code PENSAVAGE10, you can save an additional 10% on all your purchases on the JurylogioMade.com website. Jurylogio is responsible for some of the coolest and most efficient pen cases ever made in the history of anything ever made. Make sure you check them out and use the affiliate link in the description below. Okay, also our sponsors include Gold Spot Pens, for which I also have an affiliate link, which is kind of really awesome. Check out the affiliate link to Gold Spot Pens in the description below, and make sure to use coupon code Stewie at checkout for an additional savings on most of the products on the Gold Spot website through the affiliate link. Now, as of recent, Gold Spot has released this really beautiful pen, and it's by Leonardo Officina Italiana. And let me read this here. It's called the Leonardo Momento Magico, quote unquote, Bella di Notte, end quote, fountain pen. It's really this just unique blend of acrylics. It's got like purple, pink, blue, green. It's a piston filler mechanism. It's only $235. Now, what makes this more unique is that, one, there's only 170 pens made. They're all going to Gold Spot because it's a collaboration between Gold Spot and Leonardo, which is not surprising because Tom is such a huge Leonardo fanboy. So the material is made by a special resin by Jennifer Early of Stormwind Blanks. So very beautiful acrylic. It's handmade acrylic resin, and they made it into this beautiful piston filling mechanism fountain pen. Everyone I show it to, they're like, holy cow, that's a really beautiful pen. So use coupon code Stewie at checkout when purchasing your fountain pens at Gold Spot Pens using the affiliate link in the description below for an extra savings. And you'll be able to get this gorgeous pen in addition to other products on the Gold Spot website at a discount. So that's all I have for the sponsorships. I would really like for you guys and appreciate you guys checking them out and using the coupon codes. Make your purchases over there. Don't forget the Waldman pen. I love Waldman. And also the GirologioMade.com affiliate link and Gold Spot affiliate link. Now, I'm going to get on with the episode, how to cope or how I cope with loss using journaling. But before I get started with this week's episode, I want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. This podcast is not scripted and therefore will contain potty mouth words. So be forewarned. You have been warned. Now, on to the podcast.
The PenBoyRoy Entertainment Podcast.
Stay savage.
So I know a lot of people out there, you guys have pets, dogs, cats, and all that stuff. And, you know, for sure, there's always some sort of argument about which is better, dogs or cats. And I think that it's one of those arguments that will continue on forever and ever and ever, because some people are cat people, some people are dog people. And that's not what I want to get into. I'll tell you a little bit about my cute little fur baby Stewie. So we adopted him from the North Shore Animal League of America in 2009, September 15th of 2009. And the reason why was because several months before that, we had found Garfield. Now, Garfield was discovered crossing Northern Boulevard in Jackson Heights, just trotting along. He was probably maybe 6 to 8 weeks old. So he was found crossing the street and recovered. And upon further investigation, it was discovered that there was a cardboard box in a garbage bin nearby with 3 other kittens that ended up going to 3 other homes. Garfield stayed with me, a little orange cat. That little orange cat, Garfield, became probably the most mischievous and self-entitled, adorable fur baby that ever existed, and was a terror in the house when it came to just walking by. Your ankles were not safe. And every time you walked by, he'd have these little sewing needle teeth that he would just clamp onto your ankles whenever you walked by. It would be like an ambush. So my wife and I decided Garfield needs a playmate because he has no restrictions. He doesn't have any kind of discipline in terms of how hard not to bite. But if he had a playmate, they would bite each other. They would smack each other. They would kind of train each other on how far is too far when it comes to biting and pouncing. So we went to the North Shore Animal League of America, and we were just looking around. And in the bottom crate, we found Stewie just sitting in the back. And there was something so adorable and cute and unique about Stewie that we decided we were going to adopt him. So I remember we brought him home. On the way home, we didn't put him in a crate or anything like that. He was just in my wife's lap, taking a nap on the way home. And when we did get him home, he was pretty skittish. He was about the same age at that time as Garfield. And we had him in the bedroom, and we had him separated for a short period of time. But he was skittish and he was terrified of myself and my wife. But that terrification, if that's a word, would be interrupted by dangling toys that we had throughout the bedroom. And he would stop to play with them, look at them. It was the most adorable thing. He looked like a little gray striped bowling pin sitting in the middle of my room, looking at a toy, swinging back and forth, and he would swat at it. It was the cutest thing. So Stewie always had a very adorable personality. It was very unique. He kind of had this like unique chirp and meow. Eventually he developed, several months later, continuous urinary blockages. So for about a year or so, we had to keep taking him to the animal hospital to get the urinary blockages treated. And then eventually we had to do a surgery that snipped off his wee-wee. In addition to being neutered, he had to get his wee-wee snipped off just so that way the urinary canal was big enough that if there is any crystallization of urine, that it could pass. So he always had some sort of medical condition, but it was a medical condition that wasn't like life-threatening or terminal. And then life went on. He was always a very skittish cat. He never came to understand that we were not going to eat him alive. Every time he saw us, he would kind of like scamper away for about 10 feet and then stop, and then we'd be able to pick him up. We'd be able to interact with him. And he was always very skittish. That is until it was time to eat, in which case he was very in your face with his meows and chirps about wanting to eat. And he would be very vocal about it. So in the last 4 or 5 years, for some reason, he developed a lot of constipation. And what we found was that dry food probably was not the best food for Stewie. After he started developing this constipation, we always had to give him subcutaneous fluids. And every once in a while, we had to go on Amazon and buy this stuff called pet enema. So it's an enema for cats to help him lubricate his poopies and then squeeze it out. And we also had to make sure that he took fiber before every meal, because fiber helps the motility. So when it came to dealing with that aspect of Stewie, I was the one who always did it, especially when it came to subcutaneous fluids. You have to pick up the scruff and you have to put a needle in and then run about 150 milliliters of subcutaneous fluids to keep him hydrated. And then, we did that every other day, sometimes every day. And then other days every day when he ate, before every meal, I had to pill him a fiber pill. And like I said, every once in a while, he required an enema to help him move out poopies. So I was the one always doing that. He was otherwise very healthy and very active, very vocal, very communicative. So when Stewie had to be sent off, it was too sudden. He didn't ever demonstrate any other medical conditions and everything like that. So when Stewie did end up leaving us, it hit me like 1,000 bricks in the head in one shot. I think in my entire life, I don't think I've ever hysterically cried the way I did on June 24th of this year. And over the next week, I've had extreme difficulty coping with it and dealing with it, especially on the day that I went to go and pick up Stewie's ashes from the VCA, the hospital that he was put down in. I was honestly terrified to go because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how it would be for me. So I also didn't want my wife to go pick them up, because knowing that it would be very difficult, I wanted to kind of like keep her from that kind of difficulty, which I think in hindsight probably should have went with her and we should have done it together. But I kind of just wanted to get the hard part over for her, because I remember the day of putting Stewie down, seeing her cry the way she did, like scarred me in a way. So anyway, I ended up going. one of my best friends, Lyman, went with me just to be supportive, as well as my friend Adam. And then after that, after I did pick up his ashes, I just realized, like, I'm too scattered in my head. I don't know how to cope with this. The only thing I know how to do is just, train a little more, exercise a little more. And then obviously I started a notebook. I know this looks very childish, but it's a combination lock notebook that has cats all over it. And I thought, gee, what better way? So in this notebook, this is a different notebook than any other notebook that I've ever had in my fountain pen journey. This notebook's not about testing inks. It's not about writing prompts or anything like that. What I did with this notebook to help me cope with the emotions that I'm experiencing over the loss of Stewie is I find that I didn't structure it. I wasn't thinking, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. This, that, and the other thing. I just started writing how I felt about Stewie to Stewie. Now, I didn't deliberately think every page in this notebook is going to be a letter to Stewie, but it turned out that every page in the notebook that I've been using so far has been a direct message to Stewie. I'm probably never going to share those pages because you got a guy talking to his passed on cat. So what I find is, I don't know if it helps me. I don't know. I don't know if the help or the assistance from journaling about this helps now, or if it will help later, or if it helps me during the process. I just know that as I'm writing honest letters to Stewie about things that I wish I had done differently, things that I wish I had said to him or did with him, or foods I wish I gave him more of, I feel like it does help in the moment. But what's weird is every single time that I dig into the past of my mind and my experiences, like for example, I was journaling about how I wish I had given Stewie more junk food that he loved. And junk food could just be, not really junk because I don't really eat junk, but human food, right? So like every time you eat stuff at dinner, your pets always want a piece of it. But I season my food with salt and pepper, and I eat a lot of fatty steaks, and I didn't want Stewie to eat a lot of fatty steaks. I didn't know if the way I cooked steaks in avocado oil would be detrimental to his gut biome and cause more constipation issues and things like that. I restricted him off of dry food a lot because dry food was a culprit when it came to him becoming constipated. Like he would eat dry food and then shortly after he would have constipation issues, and then we'd have to give him the enema, which, by the way, cats do not enjoy enemas. They certainly do not enjoy enemas. So I write about those things. There's a page that I dedicated to just a list of things that I wish I had done differently, things I regret having done or not done. And in one page, I regret not having played with him as much. And the reason is because I was busy with work or too tired or this, that, and the other thing. And now that it's the 16th of July, 3 weeks after Stewie was sent off, after writing a whole page about what I regret not doing enough of, whatever the reasons were that I didn't do those things, whether it was play more with Stewie or give him more of my table scraps and stuff, it helps in that I can correct those things now because I still have Garfield. I still have Oreo. Oreo is a tuxedo colored cat. He's black and white, and that's why I named him Oreo, because like a cookie, the Oreo cookie is black and white. I can correct those things now because the things that I didn't do enough of, there were reasons, right? Like we're too busy. We have no energy, things that, this, that, and the other thing. I wish so much that I had gave Stewie more table scraps and spent more time playing with him. And the reasons I didn't do them now are unjustifiable. I can't justify or say that those are reasons that were good enough. This point in time, I would give up whatever I had to do those things for another day with Stewie. And what I find is journaling about them now and listing out those things is so helpful because it actually organizes the thoughts that I have, the regrets that I have about what I could have done better for Stewie. And now that I'm organizing those thoughts in a list, each thing, like for example, too tired to play with the wand toy with Stewie more often. Too tired is not an excuse. And now moving forward, too tired will never be an obstacle that I have to cross when it comes to spending more time with Garfield and Oreo. So I have a solution. Unfortunately, I can't do that for Stewie, but I can definitely do that for Garfield and Oreo. And then now that Garfield and Oreo are also 15, when it comes to giving them table scraps or, cat foods that they really like that aren't the best, like for example, I've been giving them wellness and expensive, healthy cat foods their whole lives. And I think they got tired of it, but I want them to eat that so they stay healthy. At 15, they're equivalent to about 80-year-olds in human age terms. I've decided, you know what? If they want to eat something, I'm just going to let them eat it. At this point, I think they've earned it. Because the other day, I was eating a steak and Oreo came up, and this was after Stewie moved on. And my wife is like, can I give Oreo a piece of steak? And my instinct is like, no, there's too much salt and fat in that steak, right? Because, we do the keto diet, so we eat plenty of salt and fat, and it has no negative effect on us. But I don't want it to have a negative effect on my cats. But my wife was like, yeah, but they're 15. I want them to be happy. And I was like, you know what? You're right. At this point, let's give them whatever it takes to make them happy. So she cut off little small pieces and he was eating it. And that's when she said to me, Stewie always loved steak. And then I realized, man, I wish I had just done more for what made Stewie happy. And I just really regretted not doing it. And then I journaled about it. And I think that when it comes to journaling about things that you regret, maybe writing it down isn't enough. I think there needs to be reflection about what you write down. I wrote down that I regret not having given Stewie enough stuff that made him happy. And more than just writing it down, what helps is resolving it for the future. Like I said, unfortunately, can't do that for Stewie, but I can do it for my other boys. And I'm going to make sure that I do. I'm going to make sure that there is no such thing as too tired. I'm going to make sure that there's no room for weakness for whatever reason, whether it's I'm tired or it's, exhausted or I work too long. Our cats and dogs, they sit at home and they wait for you all day long, and all they do is wait for you to come home. And when you come home, too tired, too exhausted, I only have a few hours where I have to leave again. Those reasons will be reasons that will not make you feel better after they move on. And I realized that through organizing my thoughts through journaling. What pen do I use? I was actually using my Sailor 1911 Large, Call of Cthulhu Gold Spot exclusive, and my Formula M Monteverde Innova. Those have been my favorite pens these days, and I've been using them a lot. I use the Formula M Monteverde Innova more because it's metal, and I have to worry less about it getting scratched and stuff like that. And it looks like a badass type of pen. So that's what I've been doing in the last 3 weeks in terms of dealing with this loss. I know that a lot of people out there, they use their journals for coping with things. And some people, they just write every day in their journal, just kind of like a log. I think that's a great idea. But For those of you who made it this far into this episode, I'm curious, when you guys journal about stuff to help cope with something, does visiting whatever it is that you're trying to cope with almost even sometimes deter you from writing in the journal? Because I've noticed in the last couple of days, although during the thick of it, I went to the journal to help me, in the last couple of days, I haven't journaled in it because I didn't want to get to that point. What do you guys do about that? Do you guys think you should push yourselves to do it anyway? Because maybe you're trying to like shield yourself or block off, feeling sad or feeling something, or block off dealing with it. You're trying to just move and parry and move from it. Maybe that's what I'm doing. Maybe that's what I should write about. But I think when it comes to journaling, not just for loss, but for anything, I think that we should all do it. I think I need to push past that barrier. I think we should all do it and not restrict ourselves to journaling in a structure, right? There doesn't have to be a date. There doesn't have to be a time. There doesn't have to be anything. You could just open up a page and write down a list of words that you're feeling at the moment. Or you can just open up a page and make statements, and none of them have to be relative to each other. Or you could just write down something that you're thinking at the moment, or even just write a sketch or draw a map. I feel like a lot of times I also restrict myself from journaling because I get to a point where it's like, if it's not structured, if it's not a bullet journal, if it's not perfect, then I don't want to waste the pages. I think that's some dumb shit that goes through my own head. And I think that it's very restricting for me. And if that's the way you are, I'm not calling you at all dumb. I'm just saying, I'm judging myself, and I find I love journaling. I love writing. I love using fountain pens. But when it comes to going into a journal and using it, I feel like I make too many reasons not to do it. And I think that's what I'm dealing with right now. On top of that, I have this sadness for the loss of my fur baby Stewie that makes it even harder to go to it, even though I started it for that reason. It's like a lot of conflict, a lot of bouncing back and forth. So anyway, today's episode may not have made a lot of sense. There was no continuity, I'm sure. I was trying to talk, but a lot of times I had to pause the recording and edit out some long pauses and stuff like that. So bear with me. I hope that you guys can get through this, and then leave in the comments how it is that you guys use journaling to cope with things. If you guys are using your journal to cope with things. If not, how do you use your journal at all? Do you have structure? Do you have just random writings? Is it one of those things where you kind of just go to every day, every night, and then write like a journal in the old fashioned, Dear Diary type thing? I'm just curious about what you guys do. But yeah, that was the episode for today. It's a little on the shorter side. I hope you guys were interested, or hope you guys have something to say. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thanks again for listening or watching. Be well, be safe.